Today we're going to focus on a new project called A-frame replication. In week 13, we're going to have a project resource that allows you to know exactly what it is. We're going to learn the concept of what's called kits of parts in class. What your goal is in this assignment is to actually replicate this architecture right here. You have two different images to kind of guide you through the process. We're going to replicate this, and the idea of replication is to reproduce it, to make it look the same. We'll make a 3D model of it using SketchUp. Here's another image that actually has some measurements. You have the width, the height, some other width and height of the facade of the building. So we're gonna take a look at that. And then you're gonna have your file, the A-frame replication file. What you wanna do is click on that file and do not click open with SketchUp to School. Do not do that, but rather click on download. What that will give you is the foundation, the base of the SketchUp file. Let's open that real quick and start playing around with this idea. If you're in class, you will now know how and what the concept of what's kits apart. So we're going to use the concept of kits apart and build the model itself. What you want to do constantly is go back and forth between the image and the measurement and also your SketchUp file. So if you want to, you can actually download this file as well. I'm gonna leave it up here for you to see. You can download to the desktop, download also this image here so you can see what the end result look like. And there's fine details in here that are not shown in the facade that you see in the other image. So let's take a look at the other image real quick. And let's go and create the base for this foundation. So in the concept of kits apart, we want to start breaking things apart. And we're going to build just the structure on the inside and ignore the roof line, ignore all the detail. So let's just go ahead and use the measurement. You have 40 feet wide by 30 feet tall. So if you go back in here, we're going to start there. We have the foundation. The deck has already been built for you. You're going to use this foundation here to kind of go off of creating your structure. So let's take a look at that first. Take the line tool, draw from this corner here over to this corner, and it will be 40 feet. If you look at the bottom corner right there, you should see it will be 40 feet, or you can type in 40 feet. Drag it all the way to the back side, all the way back to this side, and close it off like that. Once you have a surface sitting on top of the other one, you want to make sure you go ahead and create a component right away. So double click, right click, make component. Now that you go through that process, double click here, P for push and pull. How tall should we bring it up? Let's go back to the image to take a look. It is 30 feet tall. So let's go and take a look at that now. 30 feet mark. Look at the bottom right hand corner. You should see the measurement. So 30 feet mark, and then press enter. You will now have the structure of the building. Now that we have that item, this is a component. And to make modification to this component, you have to go inside the component by using the selection tool, press it twice, double click, and you should be inside the component. How do you know you're inside the component? Everything else on the outside is grayed out, like the last project. Let's go back into this image here. You know that the triangular shape will dictate how wide something is going to be. So in this case, you know that this is going to be the middle point. So we're going to draw and manipulate the shape that we have, because right now we have a rectangular shape and we want to be more of a triangular shape. So I'm going to reshape this structure by going inside the component, press L for line, and find the midpoint. If you moved from the if you move to any line, you should see the endpoint, which is green. If you move it along this line, you should see something called midpoint. Is blue, and that's easy to identify. So endpoint is green, midpoint is blue. So if you click it once, drag it down to this corner here. I'll do the same thing to the opposite side. Now I have myself three shapes. You have the center, you have the two side, and like the last project, if you use the push and pull, can actually pull this all the way back. Point at the end, it will disappear. So now that we have that portion, we got ourselves our frame, the structure of our frame. The next step in this process is to identify what we need. So we have all these detail which we will explore later. So the next thing that we're going to explore is going to be the roof line. And in this case, this image will not give you kind of the fine detail that you need. So I'm going to go back into my Google Classroom, click on this image instead, and this one give me a lot more detail. So according to the kits of parts, you want to start breaking things apart. So for example, here the roof line should be its own part, and then the structure is own part. the frame of it can be a different part, and all the windows and doors will be a different part. So let's go ahead and do the roof line now. In the other assignment here, it doesn't give you any fine measurement, but that's the idea. The idea of replication is you have to look at almost, I would say, cues that allows you to identify how wide, how big something is. So if this whole doorway is 10 feet tall, we have to identify how wide this is. If this is 10 feet tall, how many parts of this will fit into this little area? So let's take a look. If you go taking this little area right here, we cut into 1 part, 2 part, 3 part, 4 part, 5 part, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So this is about a foot long. Give or take, this is about a foot long. So if I go use that as my foundation, I can actually now create my roof line to go off of that. So here's my roof line. So I'm going to go ahead and identify and say this roof right here is about a foot. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the line tool, go to this edge and drag it out onto the red, type in 1 foot, enter. I'm gonna do the same thing on the opposite side, and I do it to the top as well. So I'm gonna go to the corner of the roof area, go over 1 foot, and this is almost as if I'm creating my guides, and it helped me create the roof line. So drag it all the way up to the blue axis now, type in 1 foot, and now I can actually connect these dots. Let me redo that actually. Well, notice this. If I draw vertically up, check what happened. The line itself is thicker on the bottom and thinner on top, and we don't want that. So instead, what I'm gonna do is I'll try something different. I'm actually gonna drag this out 1 foot this way. Wrong way. Let me go back onto the red 1 foot. I'm gonna do the same thing on the opposite side, and I'm gonna try something different. I want to keep it consistent. I'm gonna go ahead and close this off on this side, and also close that off as well to make sure that's flat. There you go. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side and do exactly the same do this way. Now that we have that set up, we can now create a triangular shape by drawing a line. Notice if I move my mouse from this direction and I hover over and I keep moving upward, I can see that I have a magenta line. That magenta line will give me an indicator that I'm actually drawn continually with this angle. So I'm going to just draw all the way up like this, make sure that's the one angle I want. Do the same thing on the opposite side, drag it back this way first, and pull it all the way up and cross it over like that. I can now delete this line, and now I have myself the roof line area. Now that I have that, I gotta make sure it's flat. Once it's flat, make it a component right away. So double click, right click, make component, and create. All right, now that I have that roof area, let's go and take a closer look at the image. It looks like here that it extrude out a little bit. By how much, that's really up to us to determine. If this is 1 foot thick, if I go ahead and go in and kind of guess it, it will be about 3 feet sticking out this way. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna double click in here first. P for push and pull. I'll pull this out about 3 feet. Let's take a look at that. Let's see if it looks right. Hey, it looks pretty good. It looks right. I'll go onto the back side and do the exact same thing. I'll pull it all the way back. And because the image does not show us the back side, I'm thinking that the back side would also be very similar. That is going to have some extrusion to the back side as well. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude this to the back side. In this case, I'm going to extrude it. It's up to you. I'm going to say 2 feet this time instead of 3 feet. So I'm gonna go something along that line. So now I have myself the core foundation of the structure itself. In the next video, we'll go into the detail and fine tuning and adding more detail into our A-frame architecture.